Okay, welcome back to another video. So after the meeting in Geneva, the Chinese and American sides have come to an agreement that the additional tariffs will be paused for 90 days while they hold more talks either in the US or in China or in a third country to be decided and agreed by both parties. Now, there's still 10% tariffs on either side, and the US are still imposing this additional 20% fentanyl tariff on China. But it means that currently goods shipping from China to the US will incur a 30% tariff, and the goods shipping from the US to China will levy a 10% tariff, which is much better than the 100% plus tariffs that were there before. However, the thing that this shows is that the way the US simply changed their minds at a whim. So you imagine you're a US business owner, you've just imported some goods and you've paid 145% tariff, but now you're only going to pay 30%. So what I think is going to happen now, there's going to be a massive rush, and this will benefit China. There's going to be a massive rush for US businesses to stock up on inventory because they worry that at the end of 90 days there'll be no agreement reached and tariffs will increase again. I don't think that will be the case, but I think there'll be a lot of American businesses that may think that's the case and they will stock up. Now, I still think there's going to be some disruption in the US. There'll be some shortage of goods because it'll take time for the global supply chain to get back to where it was, and there's been sort of a 45-day break in the global supply because there's a lot of goods that didn't leave China. There's a lot of goods that won't be reaching America. A lot of Chinese factories sold those goods destined for America off to other countries. With a lot of manufacturing in China, there's lead times anywhere between 30 and 90 days, so it may take time to re-establish those supply chains. So I still think there'll be some disruption in the US, but it would be good if the two sides can talk and things can get back to a more normal without ridiculous tariff levels. Now, the second thing is that just after this deal that China and US have done in Geneva, a lot of people say America needs to be judged by its actions and not its words. And what's just happened, the Department of Commerce and Industry have just issued a statement. It's an advisory at the moment suggesting that any country using Huawei Ascend chips from Huawei are their AI chips, similar to what Nvidia produced, but they're Huawei's equivalent. They're not quite as powerful as the Nvidia ones, but they're probably just as competitive in most applications. But they've basically said that any country that are purchasing those chips are violating US rules, basically. So this is the US trying to dictate to other nations what they can and cannot buy. Similarly, they did this with Huawei telecom equipment, and they actually won over some ally countries like the UK. They removed all their Huawei equipment, which was detrimental to the UK consumer. The UK consumer now has a poorer 5G service and pays more for it because the cost of ripping out that gear was tens, if not hundreds of millions of pounds, and the gear they're replacing it with just is not as good as the Huawei equipment. Anyway, this chip, so basically the US is saying that any country using these Huawei Ascend chips will violate US export controls. So basically they're trying to bully other countries into not buying Huawei's Ascend chips, which is, it's kind of funny because for the last number of years, I mean, it started in Trump's first administration. They put sanctions on Huawei, and all the sanctions through the Biden presidency were to try to stop China getting a lead or catching up in AI. And by them, the US now putting this advisory out there about these Huawei Ascend chips. It's kind of the US admitting that all the previous sanctions have actually failed, because if these Huawei chips were not good or couldn't compete with American chips, they wouldn't have to ban them. So I think this is going to be really, really interesting. I have no idea how the US is going to enforce this ban. I mean, we've already seen Germany now. They've said that, you know, Huawei equipment is not a problem to use in their telecommunications sector. And I think that, you know, there'll be many countries around the world who won't want to use American technology, because the problem with using American technology is America can deny you the use of it, or they have a lot of control over it. Even when it's installed and it's being used, they can still have control over it. You know, we have OpenAI, who are talk about charging up to $20,000 a month to use some of their models. That's not the case now, but it's something Sam Altman has mentioned, whereas a lot of Chinese companies are more going down the open source route. We saw that with DeepSeek. I think very soon there'll be a new version of DeepSeek coming. Huawei have worked very closely with DeepSeek and other companies to optimize their Ascend chips to use their models for training and inference. And I think with the new Ascend chip, they've sort of achieved about 85-90%, if I'm correct, sort of performance of NVIDIA chips. So this is pretty, you know, a telltale that the US are worried about Huawei. And this just goes to prove that when you sanction a Chinese company, you know, there's a saying in China, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And Huawei, they went into a sort of phase for 3 or 4 years where they got their heads down, but they've now emerged as a much stronger company. They're developing the Ascend chips. They have a spin-off called SI Carrier, I believe, and that's developing a lot of the semiconductor manufacturing machinery that the US is denying China to buy, like the machines from ASML and some Japanese and Korean companies. So it's going to be really, really interesting. I think China need to retaliate to this measure. You know, the US just want to control, they basically are nervous that Chinese AI and Chinese chips are going to take a hold in certain countries around the world, and that will shut American technology out. The Americans are hell-bent on it should be their AI technology that's used all around the world, even if, you know, they extract huge rents from that technology, whereas China, taking a more open approach, want to share that technology for other people to be able to use at cost that's not ridiculous. So it's really going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Just a note, as part of this trade deal, you know, China are still not supplying a lot of rare earths to the US. They are now supplying rare earth minerals and metals on a license basis, because they want to try and stop them getting into the hands of the US arms industry. I mean, you know, why would you want to supply material to a country's war machine that openly says you're an adversary? Anyway, just a quick one. I'm still out and about. I'm here in Ningbo, the home of CATL. So yeah, I'm having a great time here, but I'll try to make some videos as I go along. Won't be as many as normal, but let me know what you think down in the comments about this latest development of America trying to stop other countries buying Huawei Ascend chips. But anyway, for now, from Ningbo, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.